If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm today to get started. Hello, self-developers, and welcome to the Patrick Kelly Podcast for Self-Development, where I will be reviewing audible books on self-development that can change your life for the better this year and years to come. It is said that if we keep on doing what we always did, we will keep on getting what we always got. In other words, to change our output, we first have to change our input. Today is December 19th, 2021, and this is episode 49. And today we'll be reviewing the audible book, Superhuman By Habit A Guide to Becoming the Best Possible Version of Yourself, One Tiny Habit at a Time by Tynan. This audible book examines habit building in depth. It covers the principles and philosophies of habit building, as well as the practical nuts and bolts implementing those habits. Habits are the closest we can get to having superpowers. What is a habit and why are habits so important? It's an action that you take on a repeated basis with little or no required effort or thought. It's a loophole that allows you to upgrade your health, quality of life, productivity, and enjoyment of the world. One who builds habits channels all of his excess willpower to building habits, which pays off later because he's able to sustain those habits without using any additional willpower. Don't spend your willpower, invest it. The glorious benefit of a habit is that it converts something that requires a lot of willpower and focus into something that becomes automatic and often outside of our conscious thought. By creating habits, we can move things from the hard category to the easy category, thus freeing up willpower to tackle more of the hard things. Lesson number 1, new habits versus old habits. New habits are things that you do, but old habits are things that you are. If you want to improve yourself permanently, you must develop more old habits, which is done by creating new habits and sticking with them until they mature into old habits. You know that a habit has crossed the threshold when it becomes something that you consciously do rather than something that you must consciously think about doing. Each new habit strains our willpower, which means that there are a limited number of new habits that we can have at any given time. Old habits, being automatic and subconscious, can be unlimited. So the ultimate process for self-improvement is to add as many new positive habits as possible, working diligently to convert them to old habits and make room for more new habits. Lesson number 2, think very long term. A habit's power is measured cumulatively. An action whose magnitude is very small becomes a big deal when it's repeated over and over again. Habits can only be thought of rationally when looked at from a perspective of years or decades. The benefit of a habit isn't the magnitude of each individual action you take, but the cumulative impact it will have on your life in the long term. It's through that lens that you must evaluate which habits to pick up, which to drop, and which are worth fighting for when the going gets tough. Short-term thinking encourages thoughts like, let me push myself to the limit today and get as much done as possible. This results in missing sleep, eating poorly, and a recovery period during which no significant amount of work can be completed. That may lead to better results in a very short term, like the present day, but isn't making you more productive over longer time horizons. In fact, it's making you less productive. Lesson number 3, consistency is everything. When looking through a long-term lens, we can easily see that consistency is the most important factor. Just as it would be better to make 5% interest per year on your financial investments for the rest of your life than 50% interest for 1 year, it's better to maintain a modest lifelong habit than to start an extreme habit that can be sustained for a single year. Your results will be commensurate with the consistency to which you execute your habits, not to the magnitude of their one-time impact. Lesson number 4. Absolutely never skip twice. Missing 2 days of a habit is habit suicide. If missing 1 day reduces your chances of long-term success by a small amount like 5%, missing 2 days reduces it by 40% or so. 3 days missed and you may as well be starting over. At that point, you have lost your momentum and have made it far too easy for you to skip in the future. When you first miss a habit, the next occurrence of it should become a top priority. You must execute on that habit at any level possible. Do it perfectly if you can do it terribly, if that's all you can handle. Just make sure that you do it. Lesson number 5. Plan variances. When planning a variance, make it concrete, black and white, and specify exactly when the variance will end. I don't like to break habits, but when I do break them, I make sure that it is premeditated and a conscious decision. This is the difference between giving up on a habit and losing its benefits and simply putting it on pause because there are other factors that have a higher value at that time. Lesson number 6. You just go do a terrible job. When we create habits, we're at our best. We're highly motivated, feeling good, and in a low-stress period of life conducive to planning. Just because this is the state in which we plan out our habits doesn't mean that it is how we feel when we execute them. However, just like a marriage, any habit that's intended to last forever will require loyalty through good and bad, sickness and health. Remember that the power of a habit isn't actually in the individual execution, but in the consistency. Lesson number 7. Don't worry the lazy brain. Until you fully train the habit, your brain will try to sabotage you. It does this because the old way was working just fine, and the new way seems like a lot of mental effort. Our brains are designed for efficiency, which sometimes expresses itself as laziness. The real danger of not following through with something is that your brain figures out that if it just puts out a few small barriers in your way, it can go back to resting. This in itself becomes a habit, which you'll see in people that we call quitters. They have great intentions, good goals, and plenty of ability, but something seems to cause them to quit every single time they start a new campaign. That something is their brain trying to preserve its low energy efficiency. Lesson number 8. Skipped habits aren't excused habits. Reinforce to your subconscious mind that missing a habit is not permission to skip it. Any good habits that you are trying to acquire must be done diligently each and every day until it becomes a habit. It is said that it takes 21 days in order to develop a new habit. If you skip a day, then you must make up that day, and now you have 22 days to develop a new habit. If you miss 3 days, then you now have 24 days to create a new habit. If you want a habit to stick, you cannot skip days or you will be forced to make it up whether you like it or not. Lesson number 9. Forgive and focus. Missing a habit is bad. Completely giving up on a habit is really bad. The whole point of building habits, though, is to live a better life. If you beat yourself up and lose self-esteem whenever you fail, that negativity will counteract the positivity of building habits. We all make mistakes. Let me repeat that. We all make mistakes. Even if we try to really miss and never skip the second day of those mistakes at various points, you'll probably not challenge yourself enough, which means that you will not reach your potential. Mistakes will happen, but the most important thing is how you react to them. If successes push you forward, but mistakes also push you forward, you will have a lot more forward progress than if success moves you forward, but mistakes pull you back. Use your mistakes to focus. Lesson number 10. celebrating success. Small actions like rewarding yourself with a moment of congratulations combine to build a personal system of habit building. Just as any given instance of executing a habit is insignificant compared to the cumulative benefit, every small piece of your habit building system combines to create a powerful method of improving yourself. Everyone knows that rewards work. It's how we train dogs, children, employees, and even ourselves. Yet, when most people create habits, they don't reward themselves. They either punish themselves with negative self-talk or accidentally reward themselves when they fail by giving up. Closing thoughts. On a scale of 1 to 5, I would give this audible book a super solid 5 for giving us multiple lessons on how to become superhuman by mastering our habits. To find out more about this audible book, go to www.audible.com and download this audible book, or go to www.tynan.com to find out more information about the author. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you do not miss an episode. And also remember to share this episode via text or email with friends and family and other people that you care about. If you have a question and you wish to contact me at pkellypodcast@gmail.com. For more episodes of the Patrick Kelly Podcast for self-development and a free, did I say free? Yes, free 30-day trial of Audible Plus, go to www.thepatrickkellypodcast.com to sign up today. If you would like to donate $1 or more to the support of this podcast, click the donate button at www.thepatrickkellypodcast.com or go to $Patrick Kelly Podcast on Cash App, and I'll be sure to thank you on the next episode. This is the end of this podcast for today. Tune in next week Sunday for the next episode and the next audible book of over 300 books that I'll be reviewing on the Patrick Kelly Podcast for self-development. If you enjoyed this podcast, take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts. This really helps me out. Feel free to share this podcast with someone you care about. And remember, your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. Take care.